Welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1350, and today's date is August 6, 2017, and the title of the episode is The Current Economic Collapse News Brief. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I uploaded a new interview with Peter Schiff. It is on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel. So all you need to do is go over to YouTube, type in X22 Report Spotlight. You'll see the interview there. Or you can come over to x22report.com or newsentinel.com. Scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side. You'll see the interview there. You can play it right on the site. Or you can go to Steemit, and that is steemit.com /@X22Report, and you will see the interview there, and you can play it right on Steemit. Let's get right into the economic collapse news. Now, we've been talking about how everything is starting to shift, and we talked about how we were in the beginning of this fiat system back in the 70s. Here we are at the end, and what is happening is everything is starting to shift from the west out to the east. And what we're seeing is that China, well, at this point, their power, their manufacturing power, well, it has reached the point where it is very close to the United States right now. Now, the United States and China, they combine 39% of the global GDP, 53% of estimated economic growth in the coming years, and 23% of the world's population. But which one is perceived as the more dominant economic power? Now, according to a recent survey by Pew Research Center, that varies widely depending on the people and countries surveyed. Now, however, when we look at this, you can see that these results from people in 38 countries surveyed, Pew determined that a median of 42% of the people list the United States as the world's leading economic power, while 32% named China as the top dog, which means that China is now closing in on the United States. And we can see that they have duplicated everything out in the West. So has Russia. They are dealing now outside of the dollar. This is all being done on purpose because these countries realize that the dollar is at its end game and they're getting ready for this great transition. Now, what is this transition going to be? It looks like at this point that it's being set up to go out to the east, where China has the manufacturing base, where China is part of the SDR system, where China and Russia have been accumulating all this gold. So when we look at this, we can see that things are definitely happening, and they've been happening for quite a while. We've been following this, and we can see we're at this point where we're at the end of the system. And here in the United States, what are we seeing? We're seeing the entire system completely break down. And what is going to happen is, as the system deteriorates, as all these countries stop using the dollar, which is already happening, has been happening for quite a while, we're going to see a slow shift over to the east. Now, Mueller right now is going crazy with grand juries. And what we're seeing right now is that he's using grand juries in Washington, Alexandria, Virginia, and he is pushing the boundaries of what he's allowed to do. Now, he was looking at the Russian collusion, and this whole narrative is completely falling apart. It's actually fake, phony, and false. Now, for the record, according to his order of appointment, Mueller's independent investigation was limited to the following: any links and or coordination between the Russian government and individuals associated with the campaign of President Donald Trump, and any matters that arose or may arise directly from the investigation, any other matters within the scope of 28 CFR 600.4a. Now, Regulation 28 CFR Section 604.a is part of the federal regulation authorizing special counsels. It expands the special counsel's jurisdiction in crimes such as perjury or obstruction of justice that interfere with the original name responsibility. Now, he is looking into the financial aspect of Trump at this point, which means he might be moving outside of his jurisdiction. Now, if this does happen, the Department of Justice will have the ability to say, listen, since you're overstepping the bounds of your commission, we could fire you, we can replace you, we can do whatever we need to do to stop what you're doing. And it looks like Mueller might be heading in this direction. Now, something very interesting happened with Loretta Lynch. This was former Attorney General Loretta Lynch. Now, the American Center for Law and Justice filed a Freedom of Information Act request for information surrounding the 2016 Arizona tarmac meeting between Bill Clinton and then Attorney General Loretta Lynch during the ongoing Hillary Clinton investigation. Now, the ACLJ has a summary of the initial review, and what we're seeing right now from this 413 pages, they've discovered something very interesting. It appears former Attorney General Loretta Lynch used an email alias in her communication to disguise her identity. Lynch's alias appears to be Elizabeth Carlisle. And what we're seeing right now is that Elizabeth is actually the middle name of Loretta Lynch. Now, why A.G. Lynch would be using an alias is unknown. However, Eric Holder also used 3 aliases when he was Attorney General. The discovery of an alias does open the possibility for Freedom of Information requests into the Department of Justice for their email correspondence with her alias name, Elizabeth Carlisle, and they might discover additional communications otherwise unidentified before because they weren't looking at that. Now, there is nobody by the name Elizabeth Carlisle in the current contact address book for the Department of Justice employees. It also appears a Twitter account was opened in January of 2017 for Elizabeth Carlisle under the username @ElizCarlisle. Now, the account right now is not tweeted or anything like that. And what we're seeing is that they might find that Loretta Lynch might have been using this account to speak to Podesta, to speak to the Clintons. This way, nobody can figure out it was actually coming from Loretta Lynch. Now, this is something that they need to look into. This is what they have to follow up on, and we'll have to see what comes out of this. Now, we see the United States, they have submitted its formal communication indicating it will withdraw from the Paris Climate Agreement as soon as possible. And according to Article 28 of the agreement, the earliest actual withdrawal date for the United States is November of 2020. So we can see the process has already been starting. The United States will not be working with the Paris Climate Accord. Now, North Korea has received more sanctions right now, and they're trying to isolate North Korea right now, but North Korea has always been isolated. They've been working around all the sanctions that have put forth to them, and it really has no effect because, as we can see from the past, they always find a way to get around these sanctions. Now, Russia and China, they are telling North Korea right now to hold back on launching any type of missiles because they want to put forth their joint initiative where they say, listen, North Korea is not firing missiles. We need the United States and South Korea to follow up by stopping these military drills, and we need both sides to come together. Now, is this going to work? Maybe, maybe not. We don't know as of yet. But we can see that Lavrov is trying to bring Tillerson into the fold. We know that Tillerson has made some remarks. So we can see that something might be moving down a certain path here where they try to work this out. And we can see that Russia and China right now, they want both sides to have basically a double freeze where both sides just freeze everything right now and let's start the communications between each other. Now, Moon Jae In, even though the corporate media is out there saying that, there's some type of strike plan, Moon Jae In is agreeing to it. Actually, Moon Jae In, he's trying to work with North Korea, and he just did something very interesting. He wants to stop the propaganda leaflets, where South Korea is dropping these leaflets in North Korea, and basically he wants to stop this campaign. And he's expressed concerns regarding the propaganda leaflets to North Korea as a matter that could prompt accidental clashes. And we know that the United States, the deep state, is behind a lot of this stuff where they're pushing South Korea to do all of these different things, especially in the past when they had a little bit more control of that leader. But this leader, Moon Jae In, is a little different right now, and it looks like he's trying to calm the situation down. Actually, North Korea and South Korea, they were working together economically before the United States stepped in and started to provoke that entire incident, well, the ongoing incident that we're seeing right now. Now, out in Yemen, we can see the battle is still raging, and there are reports that the U.S., they've participated in an anti-Al-Qaeda offensive in the southern part of Yemen, and the Pentagon has confirmed that they've released a small number of U.S. ground troops into Yemen. Now, the question is, are they actually going after Al-Qaeda? Is this part of the cleanup plan, or is this part of going after the Houthis to remove them? And as of yet, we don't know what is going on in Yemen, but we do know for sure that Saudi Arabia, they have their paid mercenaries inside of Yemen. We know that Obama worked with Saudi Arabia as a proxy force to go into Yemen to try to make the people go back to the puppet government. And the people there are saying, no, we don't want to. And what we're seeing right now is that all these different countries, Libya, Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, Yemen, they're all pulling away from the United States. They have had it. They realize what they've done, and there's no cooperation. We know that Trump right now has said there's hands off of Libya, hands off of Lebanon, and we know that he sent troops in there before in the deep state, basically leaked the intel there, and that's why individuals got hurt in Yemen. So we need to watch this very carefully because we have two sides trying to reach two different goals. So we have two factions right now, one where they're actually going after the Islamic State, the other, they're the ones who support and pay for the Islamic State or pay for Al-Qaeda, and we both have them butting head. Now, the U.S. Congress, I hate to say it, they're not working for the people. Most of them are working for corporations. Most of them are working for foreign entities. They're working for the deep state. And we can see by Congress submitting those sanctioned papers and making it into law, they're still pushing the agenda. Now, the U.S. Congress is drafting a number of bills which are likely to force the Pentagon to begin the production of medium-range missiles, which basically breaks the 1987 intermediate-range nuclear forces. Now, the U.S. is saying, listen, if Russia goes into Libya, and this is coming from the Congress, if they go into Libya and they try to work out any type of peace, or they're acting like the peacemaker in Libya, and they try to remove the unified government that the deep state put into place there, they're going to basically tear up the INF Treaty. And we can see what the deep state is trying to do. They're trying to maintain control of the area. And of course, it's going to make it look like that Russia actually made or violated the INF Treaty, and the U.S. is going to turn around and say, hey, listen, you violated it, we're going to rip it up. And this is what they always do. They always try to turn it around to make it look like it was Russia who was really doing it, but actually the United States is going to do it. Because if you look at this new bill that they're putting into place is going to allow the Pentagon to produce medium-range missiles, which breaks the 1987 Intermediate-Range Nuclear Force Treaty. So we see already they already have plans to blame this on Russia. Now, Lebanon, they're trying to take back their border with Syria right now. And we can see right now they want to control the border. In the past, Israel, the United States, they've been controlling the border, and it looks like Lebanon is trying to control the border between the two countries and actually shut it down. Out in Jordan, the border with Jordan and Syria, we see that the Syrian forces, they have now basically controlled part of the border, and they're trying to maintain other parts of the border and control it, where Jordan, the United States, the coalition forces can't bring troops through the border. So they're trying to close off all the entrances into Syria. We see already Syria and Iraq, they're working together on their border. So what we're seeing right now is Russia and Syria, their strategy is to close off all the entrances into Syria. They've already closed it off in the north with Turkey. Turkey is now working with Russia, and we can see that Iraq is now working with Syria, and it looks like Syria has taken control of a lot of the bordering Jordan. We see Lebanon is doing the same with Syria. So we can see what is happening right now. They're closing off everything and surrounding all the terrorist groups, and supplies, weaponry, everything is going to be closed off. Just like every other country where they have their borders and they secure their borders, they put patrols on the borders to make sure their borders are secure. Syria and Russia are doing this right now. Now, out of the New York Times, we can see that they have reported that the U.S. has spent about $1 billion in 2013 to have the CIA train and arm these moderate rebels. Now, of course, they're only talking about these small little groups, which they call the moderate rebels. They're not talking about the wider picture where the U.S. has been using black pools of money to fund the Islamic State, the Al-Qaeda groups, the Al-Sham groups, and the rest. This is in the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. I wouldn't even be surprised if it's in the trillions right now. This is the part that they don't tell anyone about. They're only telling you about this small little program. But a lot of the money, this black pool money that's not accounted for, like all that money that's going into Afghanistan, that completely just disappeared, and they're paying for ridiculous things that never panned out because that money was being funneled to different locations. Now, it is confirmed that Russia, Turkey, and Iran, they're going to be meeting in Tehran this week. I think it's going to be the 8th and 9th. This is the Astana group where they're going to be talking about peace. Rex Tillerson is going to be involved in this. So we can see already things are actually happening to calm the situation down and to take control away from the deep state. We see that the U.S.-led coalition forces, they have used phosphorus bombs in Raqqa. They bombed a hospital. There were no terrorists in the hospital whatsoever. And the reports are coming in saying, yes, it was the coalition forces that actually used the phosphorus bombs. Now, the corporate media is out there trying to blame this on Russia or Syria, saying that they're the ones who used the phosphorus bombs. But it's starting to look like, no, it was really the coalition forces. Actually, it was the deep state, the terrorist groups that are pushing in this area. And we know that these terrorist groups, these moderate rebels, whatever, they're all one and the same. They have been doing everything out there that has to do with terror. When we talk about sarin gas, when we talk about chlorine gas, when we talk about all these different things, this all happened with the terrorist groups. And what they do is they turn it around and they make it look like it was coming from Syria. But now, and over the many, many years, we've been getting all this evidence that no, it was the terrorist groups. They're the ones who've been doing this. And again, who supports these terrorist groups? The United States, the coalition forces. And we can see at this point that all of this has been driven by the deep state. And now their world is falling apart. And again, they only have a couple choices left. We see Mueller. We see the corporate media. They're doing whatever they possibly can to pump up this Russian story, and of course they're trying to downplay everything that has to do with Clinton emails, Loretta Lynch, Comey, the leakers, and we see AJ Sessions. He is out there and he is pushing to get these leakers right now, and it looks like that nudge from Trump is actually working. And maybe this was set up, maybe this was to make the announcement to the corporate media that this is what they're about to do, and we can see, giving the deep state, we're coming after you. And we can see right now that these two factions, the people working with Trump, the deep state, well, things are coming to a head. And what I'm really worried about right now is what the deep state is going to do next. Because we hear Nikki Haley's out there saying, yes, sanctions on North Korea. Sanctions aren't going to do anything. Iran has had sanctions. Cuba has had sanctions. Russia has sanctions. Syria has sanctions. Sanctions don't do anything. North Korea has been isolated for a very long time. They figured out ways to survive, and they will survive this. I think what we need to look at is how fast can Russia and China work in calming the situation down in North Korea before the deep state creates some type of an event. And we need to remember, Congress is going on break. They won't be back until after Labor Day. And this period of time is very, very critical. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.